Okay, so I put something together pretty straightforward because after posting kind of what you wanted some extra information about to help support with your fitness and nutrition. Macronutrients is something that's a super common familiar term for me, but I know that it's confusing for a lot of people, especially in kind of deciding and understanding what macronutrients are and how much of each one you should have in your diet. So, when you get into doing a customized meal plan for someone, part of that customization is discovering and deciding based on your age, height, energy expenditure, caloric intake, body type, hormones, sleep patterns, metabolism, gut health, um, selecting a percentage of out of the total caloric intake. How much should your calories be coming from carbohydrates, fats, and protein, which is your three main macronutrients, the fourth being alcohol, but alcohol we're not going to obviously be having in a diet, unfortunately, because it does pretty much stall fat loss results. So we're going to talk a little bit about carbohydrates, proteins, and fat, and kind of the best ones to incorporate in your diet, and some general guidelines as far as how much you should be consuming. So, carbohydrates, people fear and they think they really need to cut them out to lose weight. But oftentimes, recommendations for carbohydrates can be anywhere from 30 to 60% of your total calorie intake. So, when you are creating your plate and you're putting your portion sizes on, typically your carbohydrates are going to be about a fist in size and portion, your protein about a palm, and fat about a thumb. So if you think about it in that way and you're including all those elements in your diet, in your meal, in your main meals especially, you know that you're going to be supporting the requirements your body has for these different macronutrients. So with carbohydrates, obviously, not all carbs are equal. There's simple and then there's complex, and simple is your sugars, added sugars, fruit juices, sweets, chips, the bad stuff, right? So complex carbs, you'll see people do worry about like white rice and potatoes, but these are all higher starchy, healthy carbohydrates that you can eat lots of and lose weight on. I ate white rice 4 meals of the day during my last competition prep. So obviously you can eat carbohydrates and lose weight, but again, it's a balance between your metabolism and energy expenditure. So then also you'd include whole grains. Oats are great. Beans, fruit falls under complex carbohydrates. Veggies are carbohydrates. And whole grains like raps and pitas are fine as well. It provides fiber, which is really beneficial for your gut health. Low glycemic index carbohydrates are typically the best ones for losing weight. And low glycemic index is whole grains. Some fruits are higher. And your best bet, the least impacting on insulin levels. So when you eat like a simple carb, your insulin levels tend to rise, and so your blood sugar goes up, and then your body releases insulin to get the blood sugar out of your bloodstream, which causes your body to store fat. So low GI, the best low GI is beans and lentils, and they're also very high in potassium, which helps keep water weight down. So if I'm having someone do like a faster track diet, the choice of carbs I might suggest for them would be more beans and lentils and salads and things like that. Even using beans for different recipes, if you want something a little bit sweet. There's recipes like black bean cakes and cookies, sweet potato brownies, stuff like that, with artificial sweeteners. A little bit of artificial sweetener here and there is not that big of a deal. And so then you can get that food in your diet in that kind of a way. Resistance carbs, resistant starches, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because what that is if you consume a resistant starch. So resistant starches basically are carbohydrates that your stomach and small intestine can't digest. And so when this food enters the large intestine, it actually creates healthier gut microflora in the large intestine. And this helps you to lose weight as well, because your body's not digesting this resistance carb or starch. And so with that, there's different ways of getting that in. Green bananas are one. So if you're going to go for a banana, the riper the banana, the higher it is in sugar. There's potato starch that can replace cornstarch in different baking. Even if you include it as a carbohydrate in a smoothie in the morning, you can add it in that way, or use it for different baking, and that actually helps to increase fat loss and improve gut health, and actually can help prevent colon cancer, consuming lots of resistant starches. Another way is if you cook potatoes and rice and you let it cool overnight, and even if you reheat it the next day, it changes the enzyme in the food and it turns it into a resistant starch or carb, so it will digest in the same way. So that is a really good tip. I like to do things sometimes like make potato salads because they're cooled. And if you let those foods cool, it affects your insulin a little bit differently and your digestive system. So that's a tip for losing weight a little bit faster. Carbs are important for a number of different reasons. Balancing blood sugar is a big one. So if you don't eat enough carbohydrates, your body will feel stressed out, like starving, and your hunger signals are going to go off. And this can cause an increase in levels of cortisol. It can also affect your mood and your sleeping patterns. Eating carbs helps you to feel full, so you're craving less. It actually speeds up your metabolism. Your body burns calories digesting food, and your body burns calories eating complex carbohydrates. It also boosts endorphins that create calming feeling. So part of the reason why people can sometimes get addicted or crave carbs is because it makes them feel good, and that's because carbohydrates will release dopamine. Again, carbs, balanced amount in the diet, will help to not make the body feel stressed like it's starving, and it'll keep cortisol levels down. It's also going to provide you with energy for exercise. So if you're concerned about how your body's responding, especially if you think that maybe you're a little bit insulin resistant from poor dietary habits over the course of some time, you can, what was I going to say? Having the majority of your carbohydrates before and after your workout, and then or times where you're going to be more active. So if you are really, really busy in the morning, exercising in the morning, and you're sitting around a lot in the evening, and you don't have much to do, or you're not, having different errands and things, or cleaning the house or whatever, then you might not necessarily need to have any carbohydrates with your supper or before bed. So again, with carbs, you're looking at around 30 to 65% of your total calories based on your body type. And that sort of looks like around 25 grams to 45 grams per meal. The more that you weigh, the more you need to eat. So, if you're in a range of weighing around 180 plus, you're probably looking at more like 45 grams of carbs per meal. So moving on to complete protein. So protein is a super important source of vitamin B. And that source comes from meat mostly. And B vitamins are really, really important for your stress response system or your adrenal response system. So if you are in menopause or you're highly like type A, stressed all the time, your body actually requires a lot more B vitamins. And if you're not digesting your protein well, if you have low levels of stomach acid or acid reflux, then you might not be acquiring your daily needs for that. And that will sort of affect your body's ability to cope with stress, and it will affect hormones released from stress, like cortisol. And so that can disrupt your attempts to lose weight. Also, another indication is uh, having issues with sleep and insomnia. So I often will recommend someone to start with a good B complex if they seem to be deficient, and then sort of working with repairing what's happening in the digestive system versus becoming dependent on, supplements forever. We're getting into having to take vitamin B12 shots. Complete protein. Protein is made up of 22 essential amino acids. All of these amino acids play different roles in the body, especially when it comes to your mental health. Oftentimes, there is a lack of certain amino acids that can affect mood, anxiety, depression. So, working with people that are dealing with lots of stress or emotional issues, supplementing for some additional amino acids out of protein, or recommending certain types of protein that are higher in the amino acids that you might require more of, is a way of helping to support nutritionally with those issues. Protein keeps your metabolism burning fat. It also works as well to help your blood sugar from rising when paired with a carb. So you should never eat carbohydrates alone or fruit alone. And that is because of how it's going to affect your insulin levels. So anytime you put this combination together, protein, carb, fat, it slows your digestion down. It doesn't impact your blood sugar the same, but based on what your digestive system is doing, if you're somebody that is feeling like food is sitting in your stomach all the time, or you're dealing with constipation, if you combine all those three macronutrients together, it might cause issues with you being able to digest efficiently. And if things take too long to digest, that is where you end up in a situation where you have too much bad gut bacteria. And so that causes you to have additional cravings. And it can affect the body's ability to metabolize. Good bacteria basically creates all of your vitamins and minerals, so it can affect, absorption of nutrients in that way as well. So another thing with custom meal planning is looking at food combination preferences for improving digestion. And so complete protein is your meat, eggs, dairy, quinoa, edamame, green peas, hemp hearts, chia seeds, or combining for a vegetarian source of protein, grains and nuts and seeds, or grains and lentils. So that's where you'll see combinations of rice and beans, or doing whole grain toast with peanut butter, doing chia seeds and oatmeal, stuff like that. Putting nuts and seeds in oatmeal helps to give you all of the 22 amino acids so that you have a complete protein intake in that meal. And so protein, oftentimes as women, we're not eating enough of it. And it's typically recommended that if you're not active, around 65 to 75 grams per pound of body weight. So calculating that, you take your body weight and times it by that number, and that's how many grams of protein you should be consuming in a day. If you're active, about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you are trying to develop lean muscle, you're looking at about 1.5 grams of protein per body weight. And then that is going to be decided out of your total caloric intake. And that's again looking at about 25 to 45 grams per meal, which if you're looking at meat, you can sort of compare this portion size to your palm. And again, if you are on the weighing more and needing to lose more, then you're going to be on the higher end of that. And pretty much every single meal of your day, your 5 or 6 meals a day, should have an element of protein, especially if you've been eating pretty healthy or done a detox for the first couple of weeks or for the first month. And then the caloric intake would probably be just adding in some additional calories to start getting the body burning a little bit more fat after you've been kind of eating well and detoxified. So then we're going to take a look at fat. So healthy fats in a diet are your coconut oil, olive oil, butter, ghee, nut seeds. Butter is fine. Butter contains something called how do you say that? Biuric acid. And that helps to improve your gut health big time. So again, different foods digest at different speeds. And so if you're getting into eating a lot of choices for fat from butters, it provides energy really fast. So those kinds of things are best before and after a workout, because anything that's processed, like protein bars, protein powder, is basically already digested. So you end up receiving energy from that quick, and that will affect your blood sugar a little bit more than sticking with whole foods. The other thing is with fats is you want to have a good balance of your omega-3 and your omega-6. You should actually be consuming more omega-3 than omega-6, and omega-6 is mostly your nuts and nut butters, is pretty high in it, as well as your saturated fats and unhealthy oils or hydrogenated oils like vegetable oil, canola oil, margarine, you want to avoid. And so you want to have a good, like thumb-sized portion of fat per meal in the day. Fats are also huge on supporting cognitive health and brain health, which is why some of these disorders like Alzheimer's or seizures, they're recommending keto because you're consuming so much healthy fat. It really supports any sort of conditions that are associated with brain health. And even something minor like taking fish oils or eating fish every day is almost the key to beating depression, along with cutting out, bad food and getting exercise in. Healthy fats also help reduce inflammation. So it's really, really important that when you are eating well and choosing foods for meal prep and making meals, that you don't forget about having healthy fats in that. And fats are typically around 25% of your total caloric intake. Fat is a lot higher in calories than protein and carbohydrates. So you also want to make sure that you're not overdoing too much fat and really paying attention to measuring, how much oil you're actually including in your salads or cooking with and that you're digesting. Coconut oil is one of those fats that burns fat and your body doesn't store any of it as fat. So you're pretty safe to not consume too much coconut oil. And then I want to talk about, between all of these, how to sort of figure out the total calories. So for carbs, 1 gram of a carb is equal to 4 calories. So that's sort of how you start figuring out of your total calories, the math. And I'm going to talk about an app with you guys because we have access to so many apps. There's no reason to have to really struggle with the math after you sort of have an idea of what your portion sizes should be. Protein is the same. A gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. And fat is a gram of fat is equal to 7 calories. so it's a little bit higher. So how do you figure out how many calories you should be consuming in a day? I talked about downloading Chronometer as an application, but there is also an online calculator that I've attached a link here for that you can enter in information and find out roughly how many calories you need to lose weight. So I'm just going to pull that up here so you guys can take a look at it. And so they already have the calculator kind of input in. So this is healthyeater.com, flexible dieting calculator. Flexible dieting is something that I do believe in, and what that means is some diets, it's like the same thing every day, but you should be able to swap healthy calories. So part of what I do when I'm doing a custom program for someone is I show them what they can swap equal calories out for to stay within their caloric range, choosing different sources of macronutrients. So this is pretty easy. It works best if you know what your lean mass is or what your body fat percentage is. The only way to find that out is to get a BMI reading done. So it's a special scale. I use an electromagnetic impedance scale, and it sends signals to your hands and feet that get impeded by different densities. And then it tells me how much of your total weight is from fat, muscle, water, bone. And from that information, it will tell me your basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories your body is burning at rest, and how many calories your body is burning, or how many calories you could eat in a day not gaining any weight. And again, not all calories are equal. So if you were consuming 2,200 calories of cake, you probably would not lose weight. So I kind of go by this to get a really accurate range of deciding how many calories you need to be eating, not to suppress metabolism. So if you're eating under your basal metabolic rate, that's where you start getting into rapid weight loss that turns into rapid rebound, because while this process is taking place, your body's under a bit of stress. Your cortisol levels are rising, but you're not storing any fat because you're not consuming any carbs at the time, but those levels will stay up when you go back to eating. And also when you start drastically cutting calories and drastically increasing exercise, your body adapts. It learns to adapt. So this is sort of what happens with people with rebounding. So you never want to be eating less than what your body needs for calories to survive. And that is for your heart to beat, your lungs to work. And so that is something that I definitely look into when I'm putting together meal plans for people. But we'll go back here. And so let's just do an example. So we're going to use this picture. So this person's at 38% body fat. So 47 female, weight was 157, height 5'4", lean mass 38% body fat. Moderately active would mean you're exercising every single day. So I'm going to go with light. And there's different choices. You can maintain, gain if maybe you're looking to put muscle on, lose at a comfortable weight, lose at a fast rate. So then you just calculate it. So then it brings up your caloric intake for the day. So we can see that the calories are slightly higher than what her body's burning at rest. So if there's any light exercise in the day, it's basically saying that she's only exercising, enough to be burning maybe a couple hundred calories during exercise. So that's light exercise. And of course, it's looking at it on a daily scale. So let's pull, I have an online calculator here. What I would do looking at this is I would sort of figure out, how often is this person working out and how many calories are they burning during their workout within the week, and then taking that number and dividing it between 7 days. to get a good number. So this is the macro percentage breakdown that it's giving me. And we're going by the total. You can separate this. So if you're eating 5 meals in a day and you click 5, then it's going to say, okay, this is sort of how many calories should be in your 5 meals a day if you want to keep it really even. And this is how many grams of carbs, protein, and fat per meal. Or you can do your daily total. And this is pretty similar to what I would call zone dieting. So the protein is on the higher end. It's a little less than and because of the light activity, it's probably around, a little under a gram of protein per pound of body fat for the protein aspect. And so zone dieting is when the macros sort of stay about even. You can change that around too. So say you want your protein intake to be up to, a gram of pound per body fat. Now the carbohydrates have gone down a little bit. Moderate. This is where your carbohydrates are going to exceed your protein intake. And sometimes this works a lot better for people losing weight, especially if you are somebody that's been dealing with a lot of cravings or blood sugar issues, because this is going to affect your hormones a little bit differently. So there's ways to play around with that. There's lots of different options for percentages. And then again, this changes again. So if you don't want to be, really calorie restrictive, losing at 10% is a good choice. And so now the amount of food has gone up. And it's only really by a couple hundred calories. So this would be a slower weight loss. And then, of course, maintaining. And even if you're changing the exercise level, you start exercising more, your calories are going to start going up. So it's basically sorting out and getting really good at knowing energy expenditure and picking sort of the best solution for a percentage of macros. But I really like this one. The other app that I had discussed with you guys to download that I like to use for making meal plans, Chronometer. Let's see if I can find this on here. My internet is so slow here and I get kicked out of it all the time. We'll go back to that while it's thinking. So anyway, yeah, this is BMI. I would really encourage everybody to get their BMI done if they're going to go ahead and do their own meal planning. Then I can really help give some really good instruction on helping you sort of figure out your macros. Other things to consider with dieting. So we talk about activity level, gym and work. If you are sitting at work all day long, you are not burning anywhere near the same amount of calories as somebody who is active. So that plays a factor. Types of calories you choose. Sticking with complex carbs, healthy fats, complete protein. And then time. So you want to decide, what's a comfortable rate. You might want to dip your calories a little bit lower in the week if you feel like you want to have a cheat meal on the weekends. And again, keep that cheat meal, a small portion of something and try not to get, too much sugar. Like don't eat something that's 50 grams of sugar. Your body's going to have that fuel source, so it's not going to need to break down fat anymore, and that's going to disrupt your weight loss. So realistic, sustainable. You don't want to be starving. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You want to be able to sleep well. You want to feel good. You want to have energy. You want to have a good mood. You want to look at it as, making a healthy lifestyle choice versus I'm going to crash diet and then go back to how I'm living every day. We're talking about completely changing your lifestyle. Consistency. So if you're really good for a couple of days and then you're not, and then you are, or you spend the week and you're at the gym every day and then the next week you don't go, the inconsistency is going to cause inconsistency and weight loss and gain. So it's best to make a realistic plan with realistic goals. Set out, your how many calories you should be eating to fit those choices of activity and diet. And so that way you have some sort of a program and a plan that you're going to stick to that's going to allow for progressive weight loss at your reasonable rate. Also, the closer your macros are, the faster you will lose weight. So basically, the more strict the diet, the more it's the same portions from the same foods, the faster you're going to lose weight. This is sort of what I have to do whenever I'm competing. I can swap out rice for potatoes, for quinoa, chicken for fish, for extra lean ground turkey, but it has to be like exactly the same amount of calories and grams in the day to like the T, or it's not going to work for me for what I'm hoping to achieve there. So that does make you lose weight faster. But then again, if you can't, if you can't stick to something like that, then what's the point? So it has to be realistic too, which is why I like to promote variety of eating. It's also really good to not eat the same thing every day, even if it's healthy. All foods contain different vitamins and minerals, and your body requires a balanced diet of choosing different vegetables all the time, different sources of protein to make sure you're getting in everything that you need. And then again, sleep and stress is huge because these two things really affect your hormones. Two people can do everything exactly the same and perfectly, and one person loses weight and one doesn't. And it can be have to do with sleep and stress. And then does it even matter? Can it just be calories or macros? Totally depends on your goals. Staying within a good macro range will make sure that you are burning fat and not muscle. So if you eat too little calories or you don't eat enough protein, or cortisol will increase or decrease testosterone, which will affect your ability to build muscle. If muscle is breaking down, your metabolism is going to slow. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is. Different calories affect your hormones and your gut health and your digestion. So there's like the Twinkie diet and these different things that have happened, and there's all like keto and stuff. So you can lose weight just focusing on calories. I've had clients lose rapid weight doing like Bernstein diet. We're eating like 600 calories a day. But again, your body adapts to that, and doing her before and after BMI, 50% of her weight loss, she shrunk for sure, but she was not toned, still soft, and she lost a lot of muscle. That takes a very long time to get back. So it is important to have an idea of your proper portions for the different macros for success with weight loss and with muscle building. So let's see if this has come up yet. Watches. Okay. Chronometer, nutrition, and more. This is free. Let's sign up. And obviously you're gonna do this on your phone. Let's see if I can get in here. I don't think it's gonna let me in. Anyway, it's a good tracking app. You're going to be putting information just like you are here. It's going to give you a total intake, but it's really great at, let's go here. I agree, create account. I just find this super easy for making meal plans with. We're just sort of getting a baseline for calories, and then I can write it out, and I can log in, I guess. I'm already in it. Okay. Oh, I gotta verify it. I hope you guys, if you guys are waiting, go ahead and pull up the app on your phone and just start taking a look at it. Yeah, it's not letting me in. Oh, maybe I gotta resend it. Okay, forget it. So go ahead and just take your time kind of looking at that. It's really straightforward. There's an Apple button to start adding food, and it will tally up the amounts for you pretty quickly so you can see that you're getting within your range of what it's recommending for macros. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I've been talking a little bit about what custom nutrition is all about. So this is more for, if you've done different diets, it hasn't worked for you, maybe it's worked for somebody else. Maybe you're too hungry. Maybe you put all your weight back on afterwards. Maybe you did it for a while, got bored, or it was too expensive, or it was the same. So, or if you're dealing with a certain type of a health issue. So, there's different micronutrients in food because I talked about how foods are kind of made up of different vitamins and minerals. And each vitamin and mineral is supportive for a certain organ to function well, or it's important for how the body creates different hormones. So, what I do to start off with somebody who's sort of seeking some extra support, or maybe you don't have time to be doing your own meal plans and want a little bit more advice. I sort of begin with doing like a full assessment of nutrition deficiencies and symptoms. So I send you off with a couple of intake forms that kind of look like this, and you just sort of go through and tick off everything that relates to you and the degree of it. And then I tally it up and it tells me sort of which systems might need a little bit of extra support. And then we get a little bit deeper looking at what's happening with the stomach. This means blood sugar. Maybe the gallbladder is been removed or is having issues, and so you are not digesting some of your fat-soluble vitamins. Maybe your liver is a little bit sluggish and bogged down from poor gut bacteria releasing extra toxins into the body. So the liver is huge for weight loss. It needs to be like working perfectly because your liver is what's responsible for balancing your blood sugar. It's responsible for metabolizing your healthy fats or metabolizing your fat. So, and metabolizing excess hormones like estrogen. So there's different symptoms that can point out different areas that require more focus. We dive into some different kinds of symptoms for types of bacteria in the gut that could be responsible for difficulty losing weight. Food allergies can cause inflammation in the body. Inflammation increases cortisol as well. And then, your thyroid, maybe your thyroid is a little bit sluggish, not clinically to be diagnosed, but maybe your things are starting to go on in the body that's bringing you closer to a clinical diagnosis. And we want to catch that before you end up in a situation of being on medication. Maybe you've got a lot of symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So we briefed a little bit on the adrenal system. There are these two glands above your kidneys, and they are responsible for manufacturing a lot of hormones in the body, cortisol being one of them. And then we kind of look at, are you having inflammation? Do you require certain supplements that might help reduce inflammation or maybe support your bone health better if you have osteoporosis, arthritis? So we really dive into a lot going on in the body. And then I'll prescribe specific vitamins, minerals, and foods that contain certain nutrients that all have healing effects on all these different systems. So that's just a little bit about what I do with customization outside of calories and macronutrients. And then when I put together your meal plan, I'll just give an example of someone's program. So I'll basically give several options. So after I sort of give you list your meals and I give you some ideas for substitution. So part of tracking macros in an application is you're still sort of not really sure how much to be putting in. So based on whatever category you've fallen under, you're going to see that, you can, if your breakfast says oatmeal, well, I know I can swap oatmeal out for the portion sizes of any of these amounts. And so then you have those guidelines for your fats, protein, carbohydrates, and dairy. And each of these is sort of, the amounts are customized to your caloric needs. And then you get some PDFs that have portions that you can choose from that are going to fit your caloric intake. So same sort of thing, it's laid out. You can pick what you want for a carb, a fat, or a protein. Some low sugar, low fat ideas for making things taste better. Some ideas for smoothies that support the your health in different ways, and I'll sort of circle and pinpoint if there's something specific you should be picking that might be better for you. And then there's a whole bunch of different recipes of ideas of combining different proteins and carbohydrates and fat, and it's all sort of pre-calculated for you. So you get lots of recipes that are going to be within, how many calories you were recommended to have, within that meal for you. So that's part of it. And then there's several PDFs of recipes that give you all kinds of ideas on how to eat clean. Different recipes for salads, chicken, fish, etc. You get a whole database of stuff, and we kind of go over how to swap things out and which ones you should stick with and which ones you should avoid. And then diets get really specific. So, if there's 3 or 4 systems in the body that need support, I'm going to grab different foods for those systems, and I'm going to say, hey, out of all your choices, choices 1 to 8 are going to be your best options for example, this person has a thyroid condition. So we're supporting that, and some digestive issues. So indicating kind of why these foods are in your meal plan, different supplement protocol, and then I'll tag, these are the best recipes out of your salad or smoothie guide or recipe guide that you should choose from. So and then I also provide a lot of additional resource information. So for example, this person's dealing with sleep and stress issues. There's some lists of, these are, if you're dealing with insomnia, maybe you're going to want to choose, instead of eating an apple, you're going to go for cherries, or you're going to go for a banana. And, if you're swapping berries for a banana, these are the portion sizes, so you start to understand that. And I might choose fats from certain sources that are going to help support sleep, and then different vitamin recommendations to lower, the stress response. So that's just sort of an example, briefly, to go over with what you're looking at when you're getting into doing a customized nutrition program with me. So if you guys have any questions, because I had to record this video and then upload it, just comment or whatever below, and I'll just reply on Facebook. If you want to privately message me, you can. So there's 2 things we can do. We can do a consultation which can be a weigh-in, do your BMI, and help you sort of figure out how to use your app and how to start sort of creating your own flexible diet meal plans. I charge $50 for that appointment. And if you have it sort of all figured out and you're sort of already an expert at it and you're looking for some support for being accountable, I have some different weigh-in packages that include like a 30-minute consultation on overlooking sort of how you've been making your meal plans, what you've been eating in a week, looking at your food logs, weighing you so that you were tracking and making sure you're getting the results that you're after, that you're losing all fat and not muscle. And then the other option is if you want to look into, typically what I do is an eight-week program, which is your custom meal plan. I meet with you bi-weekly for those weigh-ins, and then I'm sort of your 24/7 support for nutrition. And after that 8 weeks, my goal is that you really understand what the best diet is for you, and that you're really, really comfortable with all the information that we've sort of briefed on. And the 8-week program is $4.99 plus tax, but I'm going to be doing $100 off of that, and I do have some options for doing monthly payments. I'm going to be taking on a total of 10 people for the beginning of February for 8 weeks. So if you think that you want to dive in a little bit deeper and you have some serious goals and you kind of want to have your own personal course on nutrition for yourself, I would just recommend starting with a consultation. And I only charge $80 for a consultation. And what that is it is a review of your intake forms. So you're going to get a lot of tips and advice out of that anyway, get a weigh-in. And then if you decide that you want to move forward and go for the full program, then I'll just deduct that consultation fee as sort of the system that I have set up. So that's something that you can schedule with me privately, or I'm over at Podium Sports on Fridays booking from 10 to 2. So it's an option to call them up too and set up an appointment, a visit with me. So I hope that you guys got some useful tips out of that. And I'm going to go upload this video on YouTube and Starbucks and really cross my fingers that it's going to upload. And I'm also going to download a link for the presentation so that you guys can have a copy of the slides and a link to the Healthy Eater calculator. And I posted a picture of the Chronometer app yesterday. So I really like that tool for meal planning and meal tracking. So please, please, please comment any questions that you have. And I'll be responding to that all night tonight. And you can also message me privately for anything that you want any help with or any questions with. Even if you want to message me and set up a free consultation call, often just having a conversation with you sort of helps me to understand what's going on with your body, and I can give you some pretty good tips as far as food choices and macronutrient percentages from that. So thank you very much for taking time to listen to this. I hope it was beneficial for you guys, and yeah, looking forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.